your portable building specialist since 1989. Before you invest your hard-earned money someplace else, owner Jason Mulder invites you to stop by Bestway and get a quote on just about any size building. And whether you buy with Bestway or not, it's worth the trip just to meet Bestway Buddy. Say hello, buddy. Good boy. Bestway Portable Buildings, just north of Harts Marine on 231, and online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. The best in portable, period. Tell them Buddy sent ya.
PCB Hobby, the beach's premier hobby store for sports cards, comics, coins, and trading card games. PCB Hobby carries the largest selection of boxes and packs from the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor into Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe, the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Jock assist mode. Jock assist mode.
Are you ready?
Okay, let's begin.
Trip. The Afternoon Underdog Trip. Live and local. Inside the Doghouse.
Unleash the dragon.
On the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You are now tuned in to the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We are streaming live on Facebook. Like and share the Facebook feed and also our ESPN Northwest Florida Facebook page. We are also streaming live on Twitter or X or whatever your preference may be for that particular website. You can go over there and you can like the feed over there as well, and you can follow our Twitter page. And now we're back. We're on YouTube. They have granted our appeal, or they went back and went through the appeal and relinquished back to us our YouTube page and said we did not violate any of the community guidelines. So we're back on YouTube, all at ESPN Northwest Florida. It took me a little while to figure all of that out, but we got it done. Not necessarily figuring it out. That was a kind of more or less of a Randy deal, but figuring out how to get VMix back to streaming it. Turns out, just like pretty much most things when they're not working, turn it off, turn it back on. It resets, and you're good to go from there. So thank you guys for riding along with us. You are now officially in the doghouse. I am David Hayes, along with Tyler Bishop. And on the ones and twos with us this afternoon, we've got Caveman Rick. So thank you for joining us, and you can give us a call or text throughout this afternoon at 850-215-6290. Lots to get into. Of course, today is Halloween, so happy Halloween to all of you out there. But one thing is for certain, stay safe. We've had a lot going on in this country over the weekend, so make sure that you're staying safe. I know here in Panama City, we have it a little bit differently. You know what I mean? It's not, it tends not to get as crazy, but crazy is everywhere. So keep your eyes on them youngins and make sure you're double checking that candy this evening. 850-215-6290. Also, we had a little Monday Night Football last night. The Lions continue to look good. Well, last week, not so good against the Baltimore Ravens, but they bounced back and showed why they are a legitimate team and why the Las Vegas Raiders are in dire straits right now. And I feel so bad for Devontae Adams forever deciding. I mean, either way, right now, in this particular season, He's probably going to be throwing his hands up because he's either with Jordan Love if he stayed with the Packers, or he's here with Jimmy G, who can't find him even when he's wide open with the Las Vegas Raiders. But the whole entire reason that he went to the Raiders was to hook back up with his quarterback, Derek Carr, when they played together there at Fresno State, and got 16 games with him, if that, because Derek Carr didn't even finish out the season. Know Your Minute with Max today. We're not going to be having that segment. He is busy with today's festivities, and he will be handing out candy with his fiance. So instead, we'll be doing some NFL overreactions, and of course, we've got to let Tyler and Caveman Rick talk a little bit about Will Levis. Was whenever the last time Ryan Tannehill played, was that the last time he will play for the Tennessee Titans? We'll find out all of our answers at 4:20. Then at 4:40, we'll play a little trivia this afternoon for your chance to win $25 to not the, but that boot store. We'll also recap World Series Game 3 and talk a little bit about what those Rangers did and how impressive they've been on the road. At 5 o'clock, starting off hour number 2, as always, as we do on Tuesdays, it's college football with Tyler. So we'll find out who had the win of the week, the loss of the week, what was the game of the week. We'll preview some of the upcoming games with him, and we'll find some time throughout this show today for him to make his picks, which reminds me, I need to send Max over the pick, send him the picks over so he can make his as well. At 5:20, Gator J's going to get us ready for Waiver Wire Tuesday. Lots of good stuff there. Then we will wrap the show up with our local, and we will dive into our top 5 spooky teams of the NFL. And I'm kind of taking that from Ryan just because today we talked about the top scary teams, or maybe it's scary or spooky teams. I forget what we're going to call it later. We'll go with scary. I think that sounds a little bit better than spooky. Spooky would kind of be that synonym for bad, if you will. So I would call those clowns, though. But yeah, on the Inside Drive, we talked about the top 5 scary teams in college football. We were going to get to the NFL, but we never got that. Since today is Halloween, he won't be bringing that into tomorrow. So I guess we'll go ahead and use it. And I don't think he's mind. I don't think that he'll mind. In fact, we might have some news breaking on a little. I already run the board for him. I might be working more under him, not necessarily at Bay Point, but we'll find out. Got a few days thinking about that, and I figured I'd just go ahead and tease it. But call or text us 850-215-6290. Not a whole lot going on in the world of local, but we do have our volleyball going on, and we've got 3 games this evening. And tonight, Bishop Kenny's going to be hosting South Walton. That'll be at 6 p.m. over there in Bishop Kenny is hosting. Baker's hosting Chipley tonight at 7 p.m. and Bluntstown's going to be hosting Liberty County at 7 p.m. Caveman Rick is behind the board, right? And this story is going to be perfect for him. So there was a woman. She attended a 2021 World Series game. This game was in Atlanta, and she claims that she was seriously injured when former Braves outfielder Jorge Soler threw a ball into the stands. Now, according to a lawsuit that was filed in Cobb County Superior Court, she alleges that the ball that Soler threw hit her in the eye. The incident allegedly occurred during Game 3 of the 2021 World Series, and that was on October 29th, 2021. Her name is Myra Norris. She was attending the game with her husband and brother-in-law when he tossed the ball into the stands prior to the start of the 5th inning. That's according to the lawsuit. I guess, Caveman Rick, do we just need to put up nets around the outfield now?
Seriously?
It's a joke.
I know, but I'm just saying, seriously. So, one, I'd like to know how old this woman was. 2, is she a Braves fan or not? Was she a visiting fan too? That might have something to do with it. I don't know. But what are you going to do? Encapsulate the field, everything in a net where, fan experience means you're not going to be able to get that, home run baseball or a foul ball or something like that just because, an unfortunate incident happened. If this is 100% true, on a long enough timeline, something's bad is going to happen. We talked about this in my house about last week, I believe, right? sensationalize people that catch home run balls while they're holding babies and infants and like holding a beer in their other hand, right? Well, they get on the highlight because they made the play, right? Well, what's going to happen when one day dad, slips up and junior slips through the arms and something happens? I joked around, this is a joke, but ED, error dad, and then of course you're not going to see that on SportsCenter, dun-dun-dun. So because of stuff like that, I mean, why are you going to go there? I don't know. It's a head scratcher for me. The game's already safe enough. They're doing everything they can. Here, I mean, is this a money grab too? I don't know. Hopefully the woman's okay and she didn't lose vision out of her eye or what have you. But I don't want to try to make jokes out of it. But at the same time, I mean, when you go to a game, you're supposed to be there to watch what's going on. You're not supposed to be talking to your neighbor, taking a selfie, not paying attention.
Well, she had to be paying attention for this to hit her in her eye. Okay, I'll put it like that. Here's the other thing. If you're sitting there and you're asking for a ball, at the end of the day, that professional baseball player is going to toss it in the stands or throw it, whatever it is. But if you're asking for it, there's no way that he beamed it. Because if he beamed it, your skull's going to be really messed up. Really messed up, not just your eye socket at that point in time. So my thing is, if you can't catch, don't ask for the baseballs. Let's start there. Secondly, don't sue someone when you're going to watch someone for entertainment. Now, I do like the point that you brought up there, Caveman Rick, about it would be interesting to know what kind of a fan was she. I think, though, I'll say this. I think if she was a Astros fan, this would have made a lot more news 2022 or something like that, not too far after. But that's also another thing is how we're going to go 2 years afterwards. I'll tell you what happened. 2 years out. Well, all right. But still, when you put something in like that and then people are going to take that and run with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. Yes, legal. You're correct there. But what I'm getting at is more than likely what I would like to think. They're also saying that the Braves were, the Truist Park was being negligent in this. And again, I don't know the full story on this, but you were being negligent.
Exactly.
You were being negligent. Let me finish. All right. So with that being said, what I imagine would happen, and again, I'm theorizing here, but the hospital bills start building up. And everything is I got to make someone pay for this because I can't pay for it. I'm sorry that it was your fault that you attended the game, that you couldn't catch. And here's another thing. If you don't know if you can catch a baseball or not and you ain't got a glove, probably don't ask for it. And then here's the other thing that could have happened, Caveman Rick. He could have thrown it up into the stands aiming for someone else who maybe did have a glove or whatever, and they weren't very good at catching, and then it tips off of their glove or something. I haven't seen the video of this. In fact, I just really kind of found out about it around 3 o'clock. I'm like, what in the world is this? And I knew that you would love it because you don't like the nets around, and I'm with you to that point, but also the balls are moving even faster these days, 114.5 miles an hour from Corey Seager last night. I don't care who you are. If you think you're going to catch that, 9 times out of 10 you're not. 9 times out of 10 you're not. So at the end of the day, I'm cool with the nets going around, and you can go ahead now.
I feel you. I was just going to add, so if you run against, say, the freeze over at Truist Park, along the backstretch on the, back there, and you trip up and you hurt yourself, so now do you have to sue because you were in a contest and you were actually going to win something and then you didn't win, and so now you made yourself kind of look like a fool, and now you want something out of it? Goes along the same kind of lines of that. I think you're there for fun, right?
Yeah.
You're not there to cause problems.
And it would be, my thing would be the same thing if you're in a hockey game and a player hits a puck, it hits the slap shots a puck, it hits the goalie stick, goes over the net and hit someone. That's an accident. There's no way that Jorge Soler in the middle of a World Series game is going to rear back and throw a ball at a fan. And if that was the case, this would have been all over ESPN.
Yeah, we would have heard about it before 2 years after the fact.
Exactly.
My thing is, what happened to accidents?
Yeah.
What happened to why has everything got to be somebody else's fault? Why couldn't it have just been this happened, it was a mistake? But also, have you ever seen a baseball game before? There's a chance if you were in the stands, a ball is going to come at you. Is it likely? No, or else everybody would be walking out with home run balls. But you would kind of accept that as a fan, that you are putting yourself at least in a little bit of danger, that there's a potential a ball will come your way, either purposely or unpurposely, and you should have to take some responsibility for that. If you don't want to, don't go to the game.
Right.
Or go stand at one of the bars and watch it, from wherever inside the game if you just want to be a part of it. But you have to take some responsibility of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the part about this kind of stuff I can't stand.
No, I'm right there with you. Michigan Eddie texts in, he says, and I was about to get to this point, doesn't the ticket say that the team is absolved from any injuries due to flying objects and the attendee assumes all risks? Yeah, right there. At the end of the day,
before, but we've seen people cash in even though it says it on the ticket.
Do you think? Well, I don't have any examples there. I haven't seen anyone cash in from something like this before, so we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, the ticket does say that. If I was the judge, I'd be like, all right, in and out. That one's out of here, because at the end of the day, you came to watch these people play baseball. You came to watch these people play baseball, and something, it didn't go your way. And then also he goes on to say, Michigan Eddie does, that this would not happen in Detroit. And I'll tell you why, Michigan Eddie. It's because seats can't sue. Seats can't sue you. They're not human beings. You're just going to throw it into the stands, and it's just going to hit a chair. That's all. The ball's just going to be rolling around there in the outfield. Not in the outfield, but in the outfield stands at that point. But no, a good win for the Detroit Lions last night, Michigan Eddie. That was huge, man. They had 445 yards somewhere around like the middle of the fourth quarter, whereas the Las Vegas Raiders had about 168, and it was still only a 12-point game. But I know that Lions fans had to be excited. For the last 2 weeks now, Jahmyr Gibbs getting his career high. He did it last week against the Ravens. A lot of that in garbage time, but then this week, I mean, the touchdown run that he had, I don't know if any of you guys got to saw it, but that touchdown run, I think Caveman Rick was up for that one, but man, whenever he hit that hole and just kind of slid to the right, that was shifty, man. And he's a lot of fun to play football. And if I'm a Lions fan, I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I wasn't excited about how we drafted last year, I sure am now. And because maybe you could be like, Jahmyr Gibbs at 12, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that. Well, now it's starting to make sense, and that makes you got to look forward to the next draft. And you're sitting here at 6-2 right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, being the draft guy, like it's good to see the potential that Gibbs has, because it was always there. Seeing them actually start to utilize it a little bit, because it was kind of frustrating. Like, you had the number 12 pick, you drafted this running back to not use him, to play David Montgomery, which I'm not trying to disparage David Montgomery, but like, why did you draft Gibbs if you weren't going to use him? But to see them actually getting some use out of him, it does got to give you hope as a Lions fan. It makes you feel better as just a fan of football, and I like things that make sense. I hate it when a team makes a move that's stupid, and like drafting a running back at 12 to not use him, kind of what the Falcons have done so far, to draft Bijan, and then the last 2 weeks his touches have gone down, and it's just like, why are you taking these guys if you're not going to use them at that kind of position?
Right.
It's typically the position with the most seamless transition from high school to college to the NFL. So it's good to see these guys getting the work, and it's just another element to that Lions offense. Jared Goff is, for all the crap he catches, is a pretty solid quarterback, very good at times. Amon-Ra St. Brown has really blossomed into a pretty darn good receiver.
And consistent. It's not just 1 year.
And then you had a guy like Gibbs and Montgomery, kind of more of a two-headed monster back there, and you got Laporta having an amazing rookie season. And it just shapes up very well for the Lions going forward. And in an NFC that's wide open after the way the 49ers have played the last 2 weeks, the Eagles the last 2 weeks. The Dallas has been up and down. The NFC is wide open right now.
And the Eagles and Dallas playing this week, that's going to be a fun
slate
one.
Of games from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. this week sets up, or maybe it's 7.
It's 7:20, but same
so
deal.
nicely as a fan. So nicely.
Oh yeah, man! And Thursday night I'll be calling the Mosley Choctaw game over there in Choctawhatchee, so I won't be able to really watch the Titans and the Steelers. But I got NFL Plus. I can watch the condensed version a little bit later. But yeah, kicking it off Thursday with the Titans and the Steelers, and then the Dolphins and the Chiefs over there in Frankfurt in Germany. That's going to be the first ever NFL game played over there in Germany. That's huge. We had a nice little trade deadline today. Nothing. There was a couple of earth-shattering trades, if you will, but not a whole lot. And you talked about one of the teams in the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to be getting Chase Young. The Commanders just woke up today and said, I'm not choosing violence. I'm not choosing violence. In fact, the only violence we're going to commit is to our own team today, because we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of the most important pieces. One of those being the defensive end, Chase Young, who now perceivably is going to be playing on the opposite side of Bosa over there. And they're already good up front as it is, and now you add Chase Young and you get him for a 2024 third-round pick, which if you're Chase Young, things weren't necessarily, you didn't get the traction that you wanted over there with the Commanders. You didn't stay as healthy as you wanted, but sometimes those change of sceneries, and then you go from a pretender to a contender, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel like I'm back at Ohio State. It's on.
Yeah, no, and the Commanders had already chosen not to pick up his fifth year option, which shows they weren't committed to him long term. It's a great move for San Francisco because they're in line to get a couple third-round comp picks this year anyway, so they're going to get him for 20 or so spots in the draft, 15 spots in the draft. And then they get a chance to, maybe negotiate with him as the year goes on if he does go out and play well. And worst case scenario, they rent him for the last half of the season. And if they go on to win the Super Bowl, then it was the best third-round pick they could have ever spent. If not, then it's probably no harm, no foul the long run.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What are you thinking about the old Chase Young pickup here for the San Francisco 49ers? Does it make you weary at all as an Eagles fan?
Yeah, it does add a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Sketchiness to it.
Sketchiness. Okay.
We're going to play him again. You might have to worry a little bit more about a guy like that. He does know us from playing for the Commanders for his career now, so he has seen the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be interesting to see what he might be able to bring there, a little information, to Shanahan, and hopefully not be able to help pick us apart, if we have to face them in the playoffs, later on this year. But it's a good addition for the 49ers, a little banged up defense they got going on. So if I was a 49er fan, I'd be pretty stoked about it.
I would say that that's the biggest trade of the day, at least in my opinion. I really like the Seahawks going out and getting Leonard Williams to go on the defensive front there. I also like the Eagles, as much as I hate to say it, I love the Eagles getting Kevin Byard because just in case you're putting him on a team of dogs, he's a dog. I love that for him. And also, not a bad move for the Titans, who still get a safety in return in Terrell Edmonds, and you get the fifth and sixth round pick in 2024. So not a bad move there. Montez Sweat, which isn't necessarily one of those guys who you notice when you turn the game on or whatever, but if you're a Madden player, this is a guy who I always try to go, if I'm starting a franchise or something, I like to go get him because he's a defensive end, but he's got like a speed of like 93 or 94, or at least he did a year or two ago. So I always try to go get Montez Sweat, but it's odd here. The Commanders giving him up and receiving for him a 2024 second-round pick. A second-round pick for Montez Sweat, and of all people, it's the Bears who are going to go out and get him. And it's like, what are you going to get Montez Sweat for? So you could get rid of him soon?
Yeah, it's a weird move. It's kind of like the Chase Claypool move last year.
Yeah.
Giving up a second-round pick, that's probably going to end up being a top 8 pick in the second round. So you're looking at a top 40 pick for a guy I believe who's in his last year of his contract. So, sure, it may give you a leg up on if you want to decide you want to franchise tag him next year. It does give you some time to start negotiating a long-term deal for you to believe he's a long-term guy for you. But for a team that's not a contender to go out and spend that kind of draft capital is an odd move. We'll see if it works out for him.
What do you think might be just appeasing the fans? Like, hey, this season's pretty much wasted. I don't know. Just to show them that we're kind of trying to do something.
If
you cannot.
They spent the second round pick.
Right. You can't appease your fans when you're at this. And what I'm getting at, though, is like, if you are the GM's over there, I believe, is Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
If your goal is appeasing the fans, you appease the fans in the offseason. You appease the fans with your play on the field. Don't appease the fans at the trade deadline when you're more than likely not making the playoffs. I'm sitting here pulling up Montez Sweat's contract, and yes, he is going to be he's an unrestricted free agent after this year. So you spend a second round pick on a guy that you're going to have for 7-8 games.
Yeah.
And is he going to move the needle? You can franchise tag him, as you mentioned. There's that. But if you're Montez Sweat, are you going to the Bears and thinking, man, I can't wait till they hit me with a contract. I love winning 4 games a year. No, you're not thinking that. This is the Afternoon Underdogs. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick timeout. We'll be right back. We'll probably keep it with some headlines, might dive into some overreactions from the NFL. We'll be right back.
The PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a wind out of the north around 16 miles per hour and 72. Tonight, look for a strong breeze and mostly clear skies with a temperature near 46. Tomorrow, a high around 59 and sunny with a wind between 15 to 20 miles per hour. Thursday, cool with a high of 65 and sunshine. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
PCB Hobby, the beach's premier hobby store for sports cards, comics, coins, and trading card games. PCB Hobby carries the largest selection of boxes and packs from the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
In your face.
Questionable calls all over the NFL this year.
On the field.
Quantify, to put a value on momentum, you can't do that.
And in your radio.
Hashtag NFL rig.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 right here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. You guys can call or text 850-215-6290. I'd really love to get you guys' thoughts here on that Myron Norris lawsuit going up against Jorge Soler all the way back from the 2021 World Series. Game 3 there in Atlanta. He threw a ball into the crowd. It hit her in the eye, and now she is suing him. And I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that. But I kind of want to keep going down this trade deadline. Tyler had came up with or brought up a good point there with Montez Sweat and the Bears going after him. And here's the other thing. If you were the NFC South, and these are Tyler's words, but we were both kind of spitting them out at the same time. If you were in the NFC South, this makes sense because you're just a game or two behind. And so bringing in a playmaker like that could help since you're basically getting them on a rental. You're giving up a second-round pick that's more than likely going to be a top 10 second-round pick, and you're going after and you're trading it for a guy who is a rental, who you're only going to have for half the season, and then he gets to make his mind up unless you franchise tag him on where he's going to play next. But because the Lions are so far ahead of everyone, you're not catching up. You're more than likely not going to make a wild card spot either. So it's 2 years in a row, as Tyler said, that's just got me scratching my head. He's scratching his head. What in the world? Some of the other moves, the Bills go out and get a cornerback in Rasul Douglas from the Green Bay Packers, who receive a 2024 third-round pick. The Bills also get a 2024 fifth-round pick. The Lions go add another wide receiver. I wonder how much this has to do with the drops that Jamison Williams has been experiencing. I mean, that Ohio State wide receiver, goodness gracious. I'm playing that Jalen Hurts, oh no, he's an Oklahoma quarterback. It's like this. I'm watching Jahmyr Gibbs last night, and I'm like, dude, yeah, roll tide and also go Ramblin' Wreck or whatever. He spent the majority of his career over there at Georgia Tech and then transferred over to Bama because it's like, hey, we're not really doing anything, and I'm pretty good, and there's no way Jahmyr Gibbs is pick number 12 coming out of Georgia Tech.
No, almost guaranteed.
And as good as he is, which goes to show that, yes, they will find you wherever you are, but sometimes that platform that you're at is going to be a lot more beneficial to your stock.
And not to mention, a lot of these programs, the NFL, they know how the college programs are ran. They know how Alabama's run under Nick Saban. They know how Georgia's run under Kirby Smart. They know these things. So they know how guys transition from those programs into their culture, their atmosphere. And so it's typically like they know they can bank on this guy working out if they were able to survive in Nick Saban. Granted, Jahmyr Gibbs only being there 1 year, it's a little bit easier to survive 1 year with Saban than maybe 3 or 4. But they at least know, there's such a professional mindset in some of those programs that they know they're going to come in typically a little bit higher up than some of the other programs.
Yeah, so Donovan Peoples-Jones packing his bags, heading back home to to Detroit, and the Browns are going to get a 2025 6th-round pick. So really a very good move there. Yeah, that's nothing. I mean, not only is it a 6th-round pick, so, you know, one of the final 2 rounds, but they got a whole year to recoup this. So, of course, 49ers grabbing Chase Young for a 2024 3rd-round pick. This is what's crazy to me. The 49ers are getting Chase Young for a 3rd-round pick. The Bears are getting Montez Sweat for a 2nd-round pick. Let that sink in and tell me if you can try to make it make sense.
Well, don't remember when A.J. Brown got traded? The Eagles gave up less to get him than, I'm trying to think, was it Carolina getting more? There was another trade that happened like a day or two before that, or just earlier, and whoever.
Oh, I think it could have been Claypool. It could have been Claypool with the 2nd-round pick.
I don't know if that was it. I can't remember. But anyways, you can see crazy stuff
because DJ Moore was
drafted by Carolina. He's
right.
Elijah Moore, maybe.
Oh no, because Elijah Moore got traded during this last offseason.
So anyway,
but anyways, though, that's a good point. But it's still one of those things that you're like, what is going on? Like, the Commanders got to be sitting there like, we just fleeced the Bears.
General managers, though, there's some that can pull some strings, like just pull rabbits out their hats. Howie Roseman's a perfect example. So depending on who's, making this kind of stuff happen, look at those guys, and that'll kind of clue you in as to maybe what's going on.
Jaguars getting some extra protection for Trevor Lawrence. They're getting guard Ezra Cleveland, and the Vikings are getting a 2024 6th-round pick. This one's a big one for the Vikings. I thought that maybe a team could conversate with the Titans and maybe try to make a move for Tannehill, and they would have got him at a very discounted price because of him being injured right now. But also, if you're the Vikings, why would you go out and get an injured quarterback when your quarterback is injured? You want someone who can at least maybe help you keep pace in the NFC right now. So the Vikings are getting Josh Dobbs in a 2024 conditional 7th-round pick, and the Cardinals are getting a 2024 6th-round pick. So really and truthfully, not a bad move. And if you're Josh Dobbs, you're in a much better position with Minnesota than what you were with Arizona. You were like one of the best players on the Arizona Cardinals. Now you're going over to Minnesota. Here in about 2 weeks, you'll get Justin Jefferson back. Jordan Addison has been lighting it up. You got TJ Hawkinson. And I meant to say this earlier when we were talking about the Lions, but when they traded TJ Hawkinson last year to the Vikings, I'm sitting there thinking, why would you give up one of your best weapons to a divisional rival? And then now it's like, okay, well, they knew last year they were playing really good football, but we can afford to lose some pieces, and let's keep on building so that we can grow a little bit higher and really start biting those kneecaps, if you will. And so Sam Laporta has been huge for the Detroit Lions. Yesterday, the Falcons get Kentavious Street from the Philadelphia Eagles, and they also receive a 2025 7th-round pick. The Eagles get a 2024 6th-round pick. I mean, outside of that, all of the other trades, Kentavious, that one was yesterday. That was a yesterday trade. Montez Sweat and all the other ones that we talked about here were before the trade deadline. So not a huge trade deadline. Who would you say the winners are? Is it, could you make the argument that it's the Commanders, or is it the 49ers?
I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, I think they both won because the Commanders picked up a 2nd and 3rd-round pick. Not bad ammo going into next year's draft, especially if you're not convinced Sam Howell is your guy. Now it gives you a little bit more ammo to move up and draft one of the top quarterbacks if you feel like you need to. But if you're the 49ers, you get a guy like Chase Young. I mean, a top 2 overall pick a few years back. Was defensive rookie of the year, I believe. The guy's had flashes. You add him to those guys like Bosa and, that front seven, that's been struggling. I mean, that defense as a whole has been struggling the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so a chance to bolster that for a 3rd-round pick. Like I mentioned earlier, they're probably going to get some 3rd-round comps. So it won't cost them a huge amount of draft capital in the long run. So I think they were both great. But they both had pretty good days, and they both got to be happy sitting here at the end of the trade deadline.
I think 49ers won the trade. I think, draft picks are draft picks. You don't know what you have in them yet. You have to make the right pick, and they have to pan out. We know what Chase Young is already right now and how he's going to help that defense out. So I think right now, looking at it on paper, I think the 49ers got to be the winner.
We don't know what Chase Young is, though. We know what the potential of Chase Young is, because it's never flourished on a consistent basis. Now, when he's not injured and he's healthy, I'm right there with you.
Franchise too, not to mention injury, but look where he's playing.
Right. No, so I'm with you, and I'll agree. Like, yes, the 49ers won the trade deadline, but I'm really interested about that Josh Dobbs addition there for the Vikings, because I'll say it, man. Like last year, we had Malik Willis going, and then all of a sudden they bring in Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs played better than Malik Willis did with 2 weeks of knowing the playbook. Not even that. And he comes in and takes a starting job. And no, this isn't any slight at Malik Willis. Hey, the Titans drafted him. He was a great quarterback at Liberty. But this is just a different level of football. And if you can't throw the ball, if you can't even make the defenses scared that you're going to throw the ball or think that you're going to throw the ball, it's not going to work out for you the way that you think. So we'll see what the future holds for Malik Willis. But, hey, Will Levis had a good game. We'll talk a little bit more about that here when we try to get to some overreactions. One stat that I noticed last night from the Lions and the Raiders, Amon-Ra St. Brown recorded his 11th career game with 100 receiving yards versus the Raiders, and that passes Roy Williams for the most through 3 seasons in Lions history. A couple of other stats to know. James Harden in that Clippers trade, and I'm not even going to bring up the whole trade. It's kind of... Here's another trade for James Harden, but a couple of stats to go along with that trade. According to ESPN Analytics, now the Clippers' chances to win the NBA title, I don't know how this works out like this, jumps from 8% to 12%. So now they have a 22% chance to reach the NBA Finals with basically 3 old heads and a guy who, and Kawhi Leonard, we all know what he's capable of, but it's kind of like Chase Young, where you just don't know when he's going to be on the floor. So that 22% chance to reach the NBA Finals, highest among Western Conference teams. Harden, Westbrook, and George. Now the Clippers have 3 of the top 6 players in points among players on active rosters to never win a title. So y'all better get one done. In fact, try to make you a trade deadline move to bring over Chris Paul, because then y'all have 4 of the top 6 at that point. The Clippers are one of 10 franchises to never win an NBA title. They've been around since 1970, and the second longest of those teams is the Phoenix Suns, who've been close, but they got KD over there now. We'll see how it works out for him. And this is also the 4th time James Harden has been traded in his career, which ties him for the most by any former MVP in NBA history. That goes along with Moses Malone, Bob McAdoo, Russell Westbrook. They were all traded 4 times. Also sticking with the NBA here, Luka Doncic is the first player in NBA history to lead a team outright in points, rebounds, and assists in each of the first 3 games of the season. I tuned into the Pacers and the Bulls last night in the waning moments. There was less than 5 minutes to go, and it took about 35 minutes. I love the sport of basketball. It has become a highlight sport for me. What I mean by that is I can't watch games anymore. Yeah. I'll try to. I sit there and try to. But one thing that stood out to me last night, I think it was Zach LaVine headed to the hole. 2 Pacers defenders on either side of him. Neither one of them wants to go up. Why? Because they're scared of the foul. And then we got to go through the fouls. And then we got to go through every 30 seconds. They're reviewing something. And it's just like, all right, dude, you guys got it. Y'all need to take a page out of MLB's playbook. As someone who sat here at the beginning of the season and said, I'm not sure about these rules. It didn't take me till the All-Star break to be like, I'm sure about these rules. Good job. Rob Manfred normally doesn't do things right, and he has done things right. Well, the NBA and Adam Silver needs to figure out something, because this is hard to watch in a day and age where the attention span is so small, and you can't, it's so hard to watch. And I feel like I got a decent attention span. I like to watch long videos and whatnot, but I don't like to sit there and watch the referees watch the game. I don't like to sit there and watch this dude do a free throw routine that takes 30 seconds. I don't like to watch these dudes not play defense. I don't like to watch these dudes play soft. And the reason why it's as soft as what it is obviously, as time has gone on, it does seem like the sports are a little bit softer because the rules are more advantageous for the offensive side of the ball. And so you kind of take the players out of the game to some extent. But the NBA needs to do something, man, because it is a sport that I truly enjoy to watch, especially when they're playing team basketball. But it has gotten so hard in the recent, or in the last couple of years. Connor Bedard in the NHL, he's now the youngest player in NHL history with a goal in the first 30 seconds of a game. You know how old Connor Bedard is?
How old?
18 years and 105 days old. And sticking with the NHL, the Bruins have now earned a point in all 9 games this season. That is the longest point streak to begin a season in franchise history. The previous longest was in 1937 and 1938 with 8 games.
There's no college rules for hockey then. You can go just straight from high school or what?
Yeah. I think the only sport that you have to go to, obviously you got to do the 1 year.
One and done.
In basketball, and then you got to do 3 years in football. And obviously football needs that.
Yeah, no, that's anybody who tries to compare it, it's just such a different game.
Exactly.
I'm almost a little surprised hockey doesn't have something, just because, I mean, hockey is a fairly physical sport.
Here's the thing, though, with hockey, you're getting hit and stuff, but it's not a guarantee of every game. And you're on the ice in 45-second increments and stuff like that. Whereas in the NFL, no matter what position you're playing, you're going up against grown men. Where if you're Connor Bedard, you can escape these grown men sometimes.
That's fair.
Yeah, and they do line changes too. So, I'm sure a coaching staff will tell somebody, hey, when they're putting these other guys out on the ice, that's when you need to make it to the bench, and we'll put somebody else out there.
Kind of strategize around a little bit better.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about hockey. And again, one of the things that I'm like watch hockey. There's not much time in between. Like when you're watching hockey, I would say it might be one of the most, obviously soccer, right? Soccer is continuous. You turn on soccer and that clock starts counting upwards to 90. One of the only sports that does that. You're not seeing a commercial until the 45th minute or 49th, 50th minute. Hockey, you're getting 4 commercials per period, one every 5 minutes of gameplay, right? So at that, once you get to about 15 minutes, you're going to get a commercial. Once you get underneath 10, you're going to get a commercial. Once you get under 5, you're going to get a commercial. So in all reality, only 3. Then you get a few of them in the intermission. So, but guess what? I would much rather sit there and watch a continuous space of sports with hitting, with high-paced action, with all of this, and then, all right, now I've got 17 to 20 minutes to kind of go do my own thing and not have to really focus on anything and then come back. It's almost like if you go watch a play or whatever and they give you that intermission, that's a great thing. Whereas in football now, same thing, man. I don't know what's going on today, why I'm ranting so much about all of these sports, but with football, it's getting to the same point, especially in college football now, where it's like, oh, they took a timeout. Injured player. Let's take a commercial. Oh, we got to think. Let's take a commercial. Oh, you know what I mean? Like all of these things. I'm like, goodness gracious, dude. I want to watch sports, man. I want to watch sports, not your daggum advertisements over and over and over again. I get that that's what pays the bills, but I feel like there's a better way because you don't need so much time. Like you've been to games, right?
Oh yeah.
How often are you sitting up there in the stands what's going on? Why aren't we playing? Oh, because we got to pay the bills.
Board is out there. Oh, 2.5 minutes. Yeah, no, it's gotten awful. And as these TV contracts, which have fueled the expansion, get bigger, well, guess what? They got to find a way to pay those, and that's with the advertising. Games, the running clock this year in college football, games aren't lasting any less amount of time. Mm-hmm. They're lasting the same amount of time. You're just getting more advertisement time and less game time.
Yeah.
And it's just awful to watch. There was one Georgia game I was watching earlier this season. I mean, it was literally commercial break. They came in, punted, down the punt, commercial. We saw one punt in between commercials. It's like, that's not football.
Don't do that.
What's the point? What's the point?
In fact, if you're the broadcasters, here's what you can do in those situations. How often do we see NASCAR and all of these other sports, right, where they got the little picture-in-picture commercial? Yeah. If someone really cares about that commercial, then it's down there. But the broadcasters, they're losing time because of all of this stuff to tell us the really cool stories and the little neat, facts about these players and stuff. And if they just hang on during that break and instead of cutting all the way away, let's talk a little bit about some other things. I enjoy you guys' stories. I enjoy your reactions to trivia and stuff like that.
I would like a big-time sponsor to do the right thing and say, hey, I'm going to give the money for this airtime or for these commercials, but you know what? We're not going to air them. The announcers can talk about this during the game, saying, hey, this game is being brought to you by so-and-so. Maybe have a little thing like an icon in the corner, but telling them, hey, this is commercial free because we're allowing it to be commercial free because we're paying the money, but we're not getting the visual experience for the people watching. But just know, go back and, buy our product and know that you're watching this great, experience because of us.
You know how you do that? And that's a great point. And I know that you brought that up also for the baseball patches and stuff like that. Here's how you do that. You know that little ticker down on, not even the ticker, not the ticker, the actual score bug or whatever you want to call that. I would call it the lower third, but people are like, what are you talking about? The scoreboard, though, or the score bug, whatever it is that you call that, have their logo on that. Have their logo on that, and that's just obvious. And have the broadcasters mention over and over and over again every time they come back in. This broadcast is brought to you by, and there still needs to be commercials. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong, like there's still room for commercials, but not so many of them, man. I don't know, man. And it really does come down to greed for the most part. We're gonna get back to sports though when we return. We'll play a little trivia. This is the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. Give us a call. We'll read you off the trivia question, 850-215-6290. We're talking 1980s TV.
Start your morning with sports updates, interviews, reactions, lively discussions, insights, and expert analysis.
I think in our lifetime, we will never see another undefeated team.
Join Evan, Canty, and Michelle weekday mornings from 5 to 7.
It will never happen again.
On the Sports Talk Monster.
If anyone deserves the benefit of the doubt for one last chance, it's Bill Belichick.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a wind out of the north around 16 miles per hour and 72. Tonight, look for a strong breeze and mostly clear skies with a temperature near 46. Tomorrow, a high around 59 and sunny with a wind between 15 to 20 miles per hour. Thursday, cool with a high of 65 and sunshine. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
So you've heard the saying that if you love your job, you'll never have to work? Well, it's true.
I've worked for Brock Lawn and Pest Control for many years. The commitment to the needs of customers
and their commitment to each employee makes Brock a company I'm very proud to be a part of.
Brock's core values are also mine. Give people more than they expect and always honor your promises.
This isn't a job, it's a service to help people live a healthier lifestyle.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, our family protecting your family.
It's time to pick your path and go big and go bold from Bill Burr Kia. You can drive away in a brand new 2024 Telluride from Bill Burr Kia. The 2024 Telluride protects what matters, and it's built for the long haul. Its technology will connect with confidence, and its upscale, all-around rugged look will take you on to the next adventure. The road is yours. Bill Burr Kia, the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us today at 2435 East 15th Street or BillBurrKia.com.
He listens to Post Malone. He drives a Honda with ground effects and has Pennsylvania tattooed on his right tricep.
Looking at a bad man.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
I appreciate there all of the fallacies that David Lee just told. I'm sure you guys have been hearing that one for a while. I do not drive a Honda. I drive a Chevrolet. I do not have Pennsylvania tattooed on me. I've got an Alabama A across. Yeah, so those are a few fun facts about David. All of that you just heard was absolutely wrong. But big shout out to David Lee for being the voice here on ESPN Northwest Florida. He's also the voice on Westwood One for the NFL, which is definitely really cool. World Series last night, Game 3. Before we do that, we'll dive into trivia. Give us a call at 850-215-6290. It seems to work a little bit better when we do read the question out. I remember back in the day where we would have categories, and then so you would call in and we'd put you on the line and then you get to pick your category. But the question for today, what former NFL quarterback went on to host the 1980s TV show That's Incredible? And if you get this right, when I'm done with, when you get it right, I'll say That's incredible. But what former NFL quarterback went on to host the 1980s TV show? That's incredible. And the reason I bring this trivia question up today is because he is one of the quarterbacks that in their NFL debut threw for 4 touchdowns. Caveman Rick.
I remember that TV show vividly when I was a kid. It was a pretty neat TV show that would come on. They would show all kinds of like amazing feats and whatnot, and it was pretty dope for like 1984.
It was incredible.
You stole my thunder. I was about to say that's incredible. 850-215-6290. We're getting text in here, but you got to call to win. 850-215-6290. Michigan Eddie texted it in, and he does have it correct. But you got to call 850-215-6290. Bradley Dixon earlier in the show said roll tide. Roll tide, Bradley. And I was looking at the screen earlier. It does look it looks a little SEC championship up in here as we've got Georgia and Alabama. But hey, we can't count Alabama in yet. Georgia, if you were to put a percentage beside it, 94%. I'll say at a very low rate. For Alabama, I think you got to be less than 50% until you get past this game right here. We're going to go over to Scott. Scott, have you won in the last 30 days?
Yeah, I won Friday, so this will be back-to-back.
Yeah, it won't be, though, because we can only let you win every 30 days, and I think you came in this afternoon, so that's what made me ask, my friend.
I did.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Yes, sir. You take care now, Scott. All right, 850-215-6290. Remember that you can only win here once every 30 days, and that's not our rule. That is, I don't know if it's the FCC or our attorneys or something like that. I know this. This is what I know. That's what I've been told. So I have to do what I'm told here for ESPN Northwest Florida. Oh, I didn't even know you were still on the line. Sorry about that, Scott. That was not pointed. That was not pointed towards you at all, my friend. That was just to the listenership. Thank you so much for the call, though, Scott. What former NFL quarterback went on to host the 1980s TV show? That's incredible. What's incredible is we've got Steve on the line. Hi, Mike. There you go. All right, Steve, are you with us? Steve, are you there? Okay, Steve.
Lost him. I think we're having a phone problem. Give me a second.
All right. No worries, bud. No worries. World Series Game 3 was incredible last night with the Rangers getting the win 3-1. Now, I'll tell you this. I was texting my dad last night, like, who you got tonight or whatever. And he said, first, he answered. He didn't know I was talking about the World Series game. He thought I was talking about the football game. So he said, Lions by 10. I was like, well, that's a pretty good pick, but I was talking about the World Series. He said, I think that the Rangers win tonight by 2. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, that's a good pick. I got the Rangers on the road tonight as well, but they've been scoring so much. We'll see how it goes. And then they win 3-1. So that's 2 runs there. He texted me later. He said, I didn't want to tell you this, but I told Nancy that that's actually the score that I picked was 3-1. But he's like, I'm not taking credit for it just because obviously I didn't tell you that before the game. We'll go over to Pete real quick before we finish up this recap of the World Series. Pete, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. How are you doing today, and where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm in here at Callaway. I'm the one that teased you last week about scoring 67 points, and then I turned around and scored 80 this week. So this is Micanopy Mud Gator in your
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know exactly how are you doing, man?
Yeah, man, doing good. Me and Dave are enjoying the football and enjoying listening to you on every talk show.
Oh man, you guys, you whooped me, not this week, but last week, and I don't think I had a good showing this week at all. In fact, I'm trying to think about my overall, because I'm in 8 NFL and 1 college football. I lost my college football one, and I think I barely came back in the Inside Drive League and won that one, but I did not have a good showing in the Coach James Hale Show League. But I have a feeling, Pete, that you are going to get this one right. What former NFL quarterback went on to host the 1980s TV show That's Incredible?
And boy, don't the Vikings wish they had Frank Tarkenton.
Yes, man. They got Josh Dobbs, but I'm sure that if they could get a France Harkinson appearance right now, they would be feeling a lot better about their playoff chances and how the NFC North is going to go down with the Detroit Lions playing great football. But you just won $25 to not the, but that boot store. I'm also going to throw in $25 to Barbaritos, and we'll give you a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock and maybe a T-shirt. It's one of the T-shirts that we got made up a few years ago for a player of the game when we were giving those out. So it's not just ESPN. It's also got a former sponsor's logo on there, but it does have ESPN Northwest Florida on the sleeve, so at least you can represent that.
Hey, as long as I don't have anything Georgia Bulldog or FSU related, I'm cool.
All right, Pete. Hey,
France Harkin, Georgia great right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, and he was fun to watch. I'm showing my age.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Pete, do me a favor. Hang on the line real quick, and Caveman Rick's going to grab some info from you, all right?
Roger that. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pete with a big win there, man. Whenever I saw the stat, Will Levis, 4 touchdowns, and then they threw up, Marcus Mariota and then France Harkinson, and I was just kind of scrolling through some trivia questions, and that one came up. I was like, okay, well, I can use that as my tie-in, because otherwise it would be like, why are you asking such a random question? I'll tell you why. Because it's incredible, my friends. But no, great answer there. Max Scherzer was only able, I don't even think he went the full 3 before he started suffering from some back tightness. Obviously, you get a little bit older, you're going to be more susceptible to that. He even did take a ball right off of the elbow as well. I liked what he said after the game. He's like, it's either going to be broken or it's not. At that point, I'm like, dude, you're such a dog, Max Scherzer.
He ain't wrong, right?
He's not wrong. Very low-scoring game, 3-1. Some opportunities, great defense as well from the Rangers. Adolis Garcia leaving with side tightness as well. I haven't seen the updated results from his MRI, but yeah, the Rangers are now the first team to win 9 straight road games in a single postseason. After that win last night, they broke a tie with the 2019 Nationals and the 1996 Yankees. Corey Seager didn't get the scoring started, but he did hit a home run, his 18th career postseason home run. Now he's tied with Carlos Correa for the second most among shortstops. And that home run, I mentioned this number earlier, an exit velocity of 114.5 miles an hour. That is the hardest hit home run in a World Series in the StatCast era, which is since 2015. Tonight, since when Scherzer went out, they brought John Gray in, and I was sitting there thinking, like, well, they said John Gray is going to be the starter for Game 4, so what are they going to do? They're going to play a little bullpen game tonight. Andrew Haney's going to be going for the Rangers, going up against Joe Mansupply, and so it looks like both teams will be having a bullpen game. And then for the Diamondbacks, who's been the hottest, of course you expect it to be Corbin Carroll, but it's not. It's Tommy Pham. He's got 7 hits in the World Series. No other Diamondbacks player has more than 4. So World Series Game 4 tonight. A little Halloween action. And yesterday was the 29th time in history that you've had an NFL game on, NBA game on, NHL game on, and MLB game on all at the same time. And man, just imagine if that was tonight. Let's say that we go back to 2020 and they moved Monday Night Football to Tuesday Night Football like they did with the Bills and Titans. You'd also have college football tonight because of some Tuesday night action.
Yeah, I think we're in this strain. It was about 54 days or so. There was either a college or NFL game on every single night outside of one game like 3 Tuesdays ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a great time of year as a football. Like, even if it's like Miami of Ohio versus UNLV, it's something on, something to watch, and it's great for those programs to get a little bit of exposure.
It's great for those programs. They get the exposure. It's also great for it's more great for the programs, but for us, in Saturday, you're not going to watch San Jose State versus UNLV unless there's not another game on, or all the other games are like the 2:30 slot was this last Saturday, or 13. But even at 13 TVs, that's 13 games. That's only 26 teams. We're talking 100 now. Now, obviously, not all 131 teams or 130 FBS teams are playing at the same time. They've done. I think college football has done an even better job at like slating them more like the NFL, or I've done a better job. Let me not say a better job. I've finally noticed. You know what I mean? Like, I've always felt like there was a rhyme or reason, but then I guess what throws me off is sometimes you'll have those games, they kick off at 11 a.m., but then you'll have like the 12 p.m., 1 p.m., you know what I mean? Because there's so many games, but college football has done a good job with that. And so on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, you get an opportunity to see teams that you haven't seen play before. Like Thursday, you're going to have a big one. I was going to be going to this game, but honestly, it wouldn't have worked anyways because we've got Mosley and Choctaw, so I would have had to give these tickets away. But Troy and USA, that's going to be a big-time game in the Sun Belt Conference. Getting close to a break here.
So speaking of these random Thursday night games, I was going off this tangent since we're killing a minute anyway. One of my favorite football memories watching football with my dad, it was a random Thursday night game, and we were watching Nevada. And back when they started running the pistol offense and everything, it's like, you don't just come into hostile Nevada and walk. They said that. My dad and I joked about that for just years after they called it like hostile Nevada. But it was actually the first time I ever watched Colin Kaepernick play.
Oh,
he was a rich, I think.
I was going to ask,
freshman, that year, and they had just started running the pistol. Nobody else was really running it yet. I can't remember the coach's name now off the top of my head, but he actually ended up being a analyst for a few NFL teams, kind of helping them implement the pistol back before it was as mainstream as it is now.
The pistol?
The pistol. It's kind of like
I know what you're talking about because that's kind of like an older thing that's kind of made its resurgence.
Maybe it was kind of the resurgence of it because it was fairly new at
cyclical,
the time.
man. All of these things so cyclical.
I'm just waiting for the triple option to come back.
Triple option, right, because it really just started making its exit with a few teams that held on to it for as long as they possibly could. And then eventually, I think once we get back to the triple option, then we'll start seeing the wing T on a more frequent basis. You guys riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and Tyler Bishop, and hour number 2 is coming up next.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs.
I'm not saying that Victor Wembanyama is not talented because all you got to do is watch the guy and he is talented, but is he going to get bullied when he's in the paint? Is he going to be able to stay on the floor? So that's what's going to be interesting. And then what I hate about it for him is that he's getting all of these expectations and all of
4 to 6 weekdays. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. Partly sunny the rest of the day with a wind out of the north around 16 miles per hour and 72. Tonight, look for a strong breeze and mostly clear skies with a temperature near 46. Tomorrow, a high around 59 and sunny with a wind between 15 to 20 miles per hour. Thursday, cool with a high of 65 and sunshine. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
The holidays can be a stressful time for you and your pets. If you plan on hosting events in your home, it is important that you make sure your dog is prepared and comfortable. Brought to you by the Humane Society of Bay County. Holidays with Dogs and Guests is an hour-long class that will help you understand your dog's behaviors and how to correct them in a busy setting. Learn commands, distractions, and ways to redirect unwanted behavior by joining us November 11th at 10 a.m. Class will be held at our thrift and gift store. For more details and to register, visit adoptme.org or call 850-640-4708.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
With GSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. John, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Chuck was terrible at fishing. He spent many frustrating hours attempting to get results he saw from internet videos, aggravating trial and error fishing trips, and misguided advice from well-intended friends. Chuck is happy now with his newfound success after he visited Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, where we keep fishing fun, simple, and successful. See us soon at Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
The mission?
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Save the Panhandle from boring cookie-cutter radio. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
The state will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs. You are tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. You can call or text us at 850-215-6290. We're on 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We're also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. Want to tell you guys about this baseball charity event. It is called Pitching In for Emberlin's Cause. It'll be November 5th at 8 a.m. There's going to be a baseball tournament. It's going to be round robin. There is no team fee, and all gate donations are going to be going to the family of Emberlin Newman. It'll be at the Lynn Haven Sports Complex in Lynn Haven at 2201 Recreation Drive. Emberlin is a 2-year-old who fell ill on September 5th of 2023 after multiple hospital visits. There was a 5-centimeter brain tumor that was diagnosed on her left side. She's currently hospitalized in Gainesville. She's receiving vital treatment, and every contribution made during this tournament will directly support her living and medical costs throughout her treatment. That's this Sunday, y'all. So if you find any time throughout the day, obviously they will be having a baseball tournament over there at the Lynn Haven Sports Complex, and you can just go donate some money. Even if you don't got a team to go play or whatever, just go donate some money, because if you've ever been touched, if you've ever had anyone in your life that's dealt with something like this, I mean, we're talking about a 2-year-old young lady here, and she deserves the same fight that we all do and the same help that we all receive on a, I don't want to say everyday basis, but there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help us, and sometimes we just can't lay our pride down and accept the help. Well, Emberlin's 2 years old. She doesn't probably even know what pride is right now. So let's help her get to the age where she can learn what pride is and what help is and all of these things. So if you feel compelled, get over to the Lynn Haven Sports Complex this Sunday. They'll be starting it off at 8 a.m. and all of those gate donations will go to the family of Emberlin Newman. All right, we've got the CFP committee. They'll be dropping their top 4. How far down do we want to go? Do we want to rank our top 6? Do we want to rank our top 4, top 5? That honorable mention
we do
stage.
The 6. That's that's kind of how they do it. The first 4 and the first 2 out.
Yeah. All right, let's do that. So who's in, and then the first 2 out right now. We'll start with you, Tyler.
So my prediction for what the committee does?
Yeah, let's do what the committee does and then how you would have it.
So I'll start from 6 and work my way down. I put I think I've got Texas at number 6. I think the win over Bama still holds some weight. They're going to be the top 1-loss team. I'm going to put UW at number 5. I think that win over Oregon is still a good win. They've struggled the last few weeks against Stanford and Arizona. And then the West Coast, if they're not USC or Oregon, just doesn't seem to get the same respect a lot of times. I've got FSU at 4. That win against LSU is still good. The Duke and Clemson wins have kind of lost a little bit of their shine. They did struggle a little bit against Boston College. But outside of that, they've handled everybody pretty well, so I think they'll be out there. I've got Michigan at 3, sorry. I had Ohio State at 4. I got Michigan at 3. Their strength of schedule is going to hurt them a little bit, but overall, they've played probably the best, most consistent football. I'm putting UGA at 2. I think that's where the committee will have them. The last 2 of the last 3 games against Kentucky and Florida coming out and kind of showed they still can be the Georgia of the last 2 years. Probably really helps them in the committee's eyes, despite the fact they don't have a marquee win, and that leaves Ohio State at number 1. I've been pretty confident in them being number 1 in the committee's initial poll for the last few weeks now. Notre Dame and Penn State, say what you want about them being overrated, say what you want about them, whatever. They were top 10 teams at the time of the game. Ohio State won both, won on the road. And the committee, if nothing else, values wins, and I think that has Ohio State number 1.
Okay, man, Rick, what you thinking?
All right, for me, I'll start at the bottom, number 6. I'll go Michigan there, just because, arguably they haven't, won a whole lot of games, and now all the stuff going against Harbaugh and the cheating and whatnot. So because of that, we don't know what's going on. I'll put them down at the bottom. For 5, I'll put Texas there. Just the pedigree, the name, I think in that they'll probably end up putting a name like that in there. It'll probably work itself out. Well, they probably won't be in there in the end, but I just think that they just try to prop up some of these schools just for like ratings and the eyeballs. For number 4, Washington. I mean, Penix is playing really good. It's Pac-12, or old school team. I think they got some big wins. They got a lot of eyeballs watching them, even being a West Coast team. So I think a lot of people are paying attention to them. Number 3, FSU. They've got some big wins. They've been playing pretty well. The only reason why I probably don't have them up higher is they just haven't been doing it quite long enough. They just if they get back on a roll where they're doing it pretty regularly year to year, I can see them starting out a little higher. Number 2, go Ohio State. I mean, they're playing pretty much the best ball out there compared to anybody else. And then number 1, go with Georgia. I mean, they're still the undefeated champs, and they're on top. Why not? Until they, choke or they do something in the playoffs, why not have number 1?
So is that what you're thinking the committee's going to drop, or that's what you would drop?
A little bit, probably the committee. Probably just more like maybe what the committee's going to do.
Okay. All right. For the committee, I think that win over Alabama is gonna hold good for Texas. Mm-hmm. So I think they will come in at 6. I'm with you. Now, that differs from who I would have at 6. And then I would go with Washington, and it really comes down to I think that they would go with Washington. I can make the argument that Washington needs to be in the top 4 because of that win over Oregon, and so they beat Oregon, and Oregon's looked great.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other teams have beat other teams, and like you mentioned with Florida State, like Ohio State, they beat Penn State. And, all right, what's happened since then? You know what I mean? Now Penn State's won, but still, both of those teams struggling against Indiana, 2-5, 2-6 team. That is no bueno. So I'll go Oregon, then I'll go Washington. So 2 Pac-12 teams there at 5 and 6. Texas, and then Washington. Then I'll go, I think that they'll go Michigan 4. I think they'll go Ohio State 3, giving them the edge. Then I think they'll go Florida State 2, and then I think they'll go Georgia. Now, here's the thing. I don't think I've ever gotten their first. I got to see what it is because it seems like from week to week, right now, they even know themselves. They know themselves that where they're ranking these teams really at the end of the day does not matter because chaos will ensue. But wait, hold on. No, I've got them going Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, FSU. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, FSU, Washington, and Texas. How I would go, I would have Oregon above Texas. Texas does have that win against Alabama, but who's looked more explosive continuously? It's been Oregon, and they've got that. If Dan Lanning doesn't make some questionable calls, Oregon more than likely beats Washington, but what ifs don't really count in this. So I'll go at 6 Oregon, at 5 Washington, then I would put Michigan. They're undefeated, and it's a lot like, the schedule situation, but the difference is for me is that some of the teams that Georgia's been playing is a lot better than, some of the teams that Michigan's played. Now, by the time it's all said and done, and the stretch coming up for Georgia is pretty tough. What does Michigan really have left on the schedule? Two tough games in Penn State and Ohio State. So we'll see how all of that plays out. So I'll go Oregon, Washington, Michigan, then Ohio State, then Florida State because that win over LSU still looks pretty good, and then Georgia number 1 because at the end of the day, you want to talk about a team that can flip a switch. You want to talk about a team that can flip a switch in a game where you really should not be doing no switch flipping anyways. You need to stay constant, but this team can do it, man. There's not another team out there that, and maybe Michigan. Maybe Michigan has that ability, but what have we seen from Michigan? Countless amounts of times. They get to where it matters, and they fall. And if they were stealing signs, and you got well, I don't want to even say if all of that is true, let me just say that because from some of the evidence that we're starting to see, it looks pretty daggum straight up like they were. So you mean to tell me you were stealing signs and you got whooped by TCU like that? Oh my gosh, that is laughable. And imagine what would have happened. Dude, go steal Georgia signs. Kirby Smart's going to have a whole nother game plan by the second quarter. He ain't even going to wait till halftime to deploy it. And then they're going to run all over you. Am I saying that stealing signs is right? No. Whatever the NCAA is going to decide to do is what they're going to decide to do. But end of the day is a good team is going to overcome that. A good team is going to overcome those sign stealings and stuff like that because they're going to recognize, man. Now, here's the caveat. If they don't start using the sign stealing until you get to the fourth quarter. Like that to me is where it would be different if you're like, all right, we're going to go through our first 3 quarters game plan. And then if, the result is if we're not getting the result that we want, then all of a sudden, all right, now we know what it is that they're going to do. So there is ways that it can definitely be advantageous for the team who is stealing signs. And apparently I haven't read the whole article, but that Stallion guy or whatever, the guy who's kind of accused of and got suspended or whatever, he was at Central Michigan.
Yeah, there's pictures floating around of a guy who looks like him on Central Michigan's sideline for the opening game against Michigan State.
Yeah.
And so now the theory is that he was there on Central Michigan's sideline scouting Michigan
State. Okay.
Which, but why did Central Michigan allow him on the sideline? Because he's in Central Michigan. He's on the sideline in gear. Why did Central Michigan allow him there?
He's in Central Michigan gear?
He's in Central Michigan shirt. Like, he looks like a member of the coaching staff.
Oh, my gosh.
So maybe he goes all the way through the Michigan university system. I don't know what's
there you go. And Michigan's like, hey, CMU, man, like, I know you guys are kind of hurting on your budget or whatever. We just found $250,000. If you could just give us a ticket for week 1 and maybe a little CMU uniform for your staff mates.
So,
that would be great.
That's an interesting. I can't wait to see how this all plays out.
Now, you know, Michigan's got a lot of alums, right? So what if they just got moles placed all over the place that are just giving them information and intel, kind of like espionage?
Don't you think that was so easy for all of these Power 5 schools to do that, though? Like, because they have a lot of these schools have alumni all over the country, and they could be like at any given moment, or former football players even. Hey, like, you're not going to raise any alarms about being at the game. The camera might be on you a little bit more, whatever, because you could be famous or whatever. But yeah, just let me know how that game went. Give me your scouting report, and make sure you take some video as well. And specifically, watch those sidelines, and when they put those cards up, make sure you're getting those. And when they're waving their arms around, we don't want pictures of that. We want video.
Yeah. I'm sure he was just standing on the sideline with a camera, dressed in Central Michigan gear, recording it, and nobody noticed. I'm sure that's how that went down.
Yeah. And Tyler, who had the win of the week this last weekend in college football? And I think I know which one you're going to give me, so give me 2 if one of those has to do with the Georgia Bulldogs.
No, I mean, I always try to steer away from Georgia as much as I can because I don't want to come off too homerish, but, you know, it's hard not to in the middle of the streak we're in here. But I had it down as Oregon. I think going into Utah, blasting the Utes the way they did was huge. Essentially knocks Utah out of any college football playoff conversation, keeps Oregon in it. But to go out and do that on the road is very impressive. And, I mean, Utah is a team that's been known for physical play, good defense, and they went up and put, 35-6 or something like that on them?
Yeah.
To blow them out like that when a lot of people thought they could lose outright is an impressive win coming off, you know, that they lost to UW a few weeks ago and had a bye week in between there, but kind of gets them really back into that national prominence.
I like that one. I think for me, I'm going to go with Kansas. Not only do they beat Oklahoma, a top 10 team, how long has it been since they even beat Oklahoma or a top 10 team? I would imagine like maybe the 80s against Oklahoma or something like that. But not only do they beat them, yes, they're at the house, but they beat them with their backup quarterback.
Yeah. That's a huge win. It's a great win.
Yeah, so, you know, no Jalen Daniels, and you still get the job done. So, yeah, kudos to Leopold or Leipold, whatever it is. Man, he
interested to see if his name comes up for any of these quote-unquote bigger jobs that may come open this year, like maybe a Michigan State.
Yeah, and I know that this is totally off base, but I saw a little report that, you know, the Houston Astros, their managerial job is open now, and Ron Washington could be interested in that job. And I said that a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago, whenever it was official that Dusty Baker was out, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ron Washington taking that job, man. He absolutely deserves it. Caveman Rick, who was your win of the week?
You kind of took mine. I was going to say the Oklahoma game with Kansas. We both picked that on Friday. Big ups to Bone Crusher, though. He's the guy that picked Kansas, and he got that one right. So I was really surprised after that game was over. But that one kind of shocked me, like in how you mentioned, with the backup quarterback.
All right, I'll give you another one then. They scored 24 points in the second quarter. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 0 points in the first and the third quarter, and they beat the 17th team ranked in the land 46-42. That is Georgia Tech over North Carolina in a game that I did not pay a single amount of attention to. And also I'll give honorable mention to Louisville for shutting out Duke.
Yeah.
With Riley Leonard being on the field and you shut them out 23-0. Their running back Jordan over there, pretty legit.
Yeah, I actually had that North Carolina game as my loss of the week for UNC. To follow up losing to unranked Virginia by losing to Georgia Tech is awful. Knocks yourself out of any sort of legitimate college football playoff discussion. And that's kind of why I have it worse than the Oklahoma-Kansas loss, is because, like, Oklahoma still has a shot at the playoff if they win out, they're in. But UNC, I mean, I don't think they had a legitimate I don't think they were going to make it, and I don't think they'd be a legit contender if they made it. But they still had a chance. They controlled their own destiny. And then they went and kind of just crapped the bed, and now they're just playing for, I mean, a good bowl win, but, I mean, that's about all they're playing for now.
You don't got a loss of the week? All right, so I'll go with one. Let's go with the Colorado football players. I know that sounds so funny, but I mean, if you're playing a football game,
that's messed up.
And then you go back into your locker room and all of your possessions are gone. You talk about negligence from a stadium whatever. That, I'm not, and I think Deion Sanders even came out and said maybe something to the NCAA or something to the effect of these things need to be replaced.
100%. UCLA or the Rose Bowl, however that contract works, somebody there needs to be 100% accountable, because that's just, it's a safety issue. If you can't trust your belongings to be locked in a locker room, that's just, come on. That's just basic rights there.
I don't got a loss, but how about USC almost losing to Cal?
I think you can count that as a loss of the week for USC. I mean, and honestly, for Caleb Williams, it's a loss of the week. Not because he played bad, because he had a really good game in that game. But man, I would be so upset. Like if I'm putting up 50 points, if we're coming back from 28-17. And California is one play away, 2-point conversion away from knocking us off and us taking our third consecutive loss. And it's like in the first two games, in the first two losses for Caleb Williams, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, you deserve to lose those games. You played a part. You played a part in that. In this last one, you didn't, and you did everything that you could. And so that is, I feel bad for Caleb Williams there. As far as just a football game, I'll go my other loss of the week. It was a game that, kind of lasted into the wee hours of the morning. Oregon State falling to Arizona. Now, kudos to Arizona. You could also make the case of this for their win of the week. I mean, sitting here at 5-3, and taking teams to the brink, it seems like every week or every other week. Oregon State, though, falling 27-24. Yeah, they were on the road. But I'll give them the loss of the week just because I think they should have been in that game with the number 11 sitting beside their name. What was the game of the week?
I think that OU-Kansas game. I mean, that was an exciting game. I think Oklahoma scored with it was late in the fourth quarter when they scored to go ahead. Kansas able to come down. And Oklahoma even had a shot to go back and try to take the lead back all in the last 4 minutes or so. Just classic Big 12 football, going up and down the field there late in the end, and some late season heroics. And like I said, it was a great win for Kansas, and not a great loss for Oklahoma either. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, and they got Oklahoma State on the road this week. Okay, man, what was the game of the week for you?
Washington, Stanford, probably. Stanford, put up a good fight against a pretty good Washington team. Penix didn't really have that maybe Heisman moment that maybe he still is waiting to have. So I think because of that game, just the high scoring, kind of a bit of a shootout. Pac-12 again. It's a good game.
Yeah, both are really good picks. I'm going to go with the Jets and the Giants. 24 punts, -9 passing yards as a team for the New York Football Giants. Just absolutely wild.
Well, that was only for a half.
No, the -9 yards was for the whole game.
I thought that was just for the first half.
No. Tyrod Taylor threw for 1 yard, and then DeVito, yeah, he threw for -9 yards or -10 yards or whatever it was. Well, no. I don't think he threw for barely anything. It's the sacks. Yeah. The sacks is what took that down to -9 to -9 there. Game of the week. I'm gonna go because that was a great one with Oklahoma, Kansas, and both of you guys with great picks there. I mean, USC, California. That game, I think you can give it the argument. I'll go Tennessee, Kentucky, though, because Kentucky has been falling flat, and for them to, kind of stick in that game, I'll go with Tennessee, Kentucky. And then our final question here for this particular segment, what is the game of the upcoming week?
I mean, I think it's got to be LSU Bama with everything on the line, essentially the SEC West championship game. I know there's a lot of other tiebreakers and stuff that could come in there, but it's going to be a big test for both teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. But also shout out to Georgia-Mizzou this week. I think it's going to be a fun game, and hopefully it's not very competitive, but, we'll see.
We will see. What about for you, Caveman Rick?
I'm sorry, Tyler, but yeah, Georgia and Mizzou, man. I mean, why not? Missouri's been like the beast of the East this season, for the SEC. They're just a good team. They got a lot of fight in them. They fight to the end of the game. It'd probably be one of Georgia's toughest tests. Bowers isn't supposed to be playing again, right? So, I mean, why not? That should be a barn burner.
Yeah, for me, I'll give every game that I'm about to mention is going to be an honorable mention because it is LSU Bama, right? We're talking about college football playoff implications, but same way with Georgia and Missouri as well. I mean, Missouri could throw this thing on its head with a win, especially with it being on the road for the Tigers. So that's interesting. But over in the Pac-12, they've got a ton of good games. And I'm being dead serious here, too. UCLA on the road taking on Arizona. Oregon State on the road taking on Colorado. Washington on the road taking on USC. That's pretty much the most of those for the Pac-12. So definitely got to give that a little love. And then also Notre Dame Clemson.
Yeah.
Right now, obviously
it could be big or it could be awful.
Exactly. It's one of those ones like if you're Dabo Swinney, you're hosting Notre Dame, you got to find a way to win this game because if you go 4-5, then everything that I said sticking up for you a few weeks ago, I'm in the same position I am with Will Levis. Now, obviously, with Will Levis, I'm not eating crow yet. Come on, guys. It's overreactions. You know what I mean? I'm not eating crow yet, but I will be fine to eat crow for my team getting a good quarterback out of the whole ordeal. But if you're Clemson, man, and you go 4-5, and South Carolina could beat you, son. Then you're looking at 4-6. That's who knows what your games are in between that and how you do in those games. But
could you imagine if Clemson doesn't make a bowl game?
5-7.
Could you imagine?
Oh, and then on the flip side of that, Colorado. If they were to go 5-7, it's still oh my gosh, that is still great. You know what I mean? So, and then another game to watch out for is going to be 25. Kansas State heading to Texas, who is number 7. You also got to watch out for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State doesn't have a number besides their name, but they're 6-2. They're 4-1 in the Big 12.
They're on the 4 or 5 game win streak right now.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that game goes. I had OK State 12-0 preseason because I like the way their schedule's set up. They dropped some questionable games to South Alabama and Iowa State, but since then they've looked a lot better. So if they can beat Oklahoma, all of a sudden that Big 12 race gets really crazy.
Jumbled up. Ain't no TCU sitting over there right now, or at least last year or this year's TCU. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. You're tuned into ESPN Northwest Florida. It's time for some fantasy football. If you've got any waiver wire questions, go ahead and text them to 850-215-6290. Hop on Facebook, comment there. Gator J is up next with us.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
You let him check that rash you were telling us about? Actually, he told me to let you check that. He said he wasn't touching that rash.
Hail to the victors, Zion. Hail to the conquering heroes.
Put them away. They got to cut the head off, okay?
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, mostly clear skies and a low of 46 with a strong breeze coming out of the north around 20 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, sunshine and a temp near 52. In the afternoon and evening, a wind 15 to 20 miles per hour, sunny and a high around 59. For Thursday, sunshine and a high of 65. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullets, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the Hathaway Bridge, we're live and local. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we're back. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm David Hazel along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. Again, we're going to be talking some fantasy football here with Gator J. So if you have any waiver wire questions or any comments or statements, you can either call, get on the line with Gator J at 850-215-6290. That's 850-215-6290. Or you can text it in and I will ask Gator J myself. He is the producer for Fantasy and Frames, and he keeps us up to date at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, right here on the Afternoon Underdogs. Gator J, what's going on? And then tell me who impressed you last week.
Man, I am good. I'm still recovering from a phenomenal weekend. Forget the game. It was a phenomenal weekend over there at Florida, Georgia weekend. Absolutely wonderful. Still recovering, as you can hear in my voice.
That's how you know you did the game right.
Right.
That's right. A lot of yelling. The Vanilla Ice concert with Tone Loc and Montrell Jordan and who else was there? Good Lord, I can't remember who all was there. It was
Vanilla Ice.
Right. Yes, Rob Van Winkle was, and they did a phenomenal job. So that was, and you know what? The Gators are 1-1 over the weekend. We won in baseball. We lost in football. So it's good.
You know what?
I'll take that trade every day.
Well, he'll take that, and what I'll take from it, Gator J, is the positivity that you're exuding right now. After it was a tough loss, but you had a great time, man, and that's what really matters and counts, especially as fans of the game. Who impressed you in fantasy football last week?
It's not one person. It's a whole damn team. The Cincinnati Bengals went out to San Francisco, a vaunted defense, and everybody was involved. Mixon, 3 of 3. Chase, 10 of 12. Boyd, 3 of 3. I mean, everybody was involved. Higgins was, even old man Irv Smith was involved in that game.
That fumble, though.
They only allowed 17 points.
Yeah, that fumble, though, by Irv Smith was, man, I was like, come on, man, you got to hold on to that thing.
Yes. But you're going to get that when the turnover. You're going to play the turnover game.
Yep.
That's why I don't get mad, at Sam Howell for throwing 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. Okay.
Right. No, that's a really good point. Who's someone that let you down last week? And it doesn't have to be necessarily on your team, but just someone that maybe in one of your podcasts or one of your live feeds, you're sitting there talking about it, and then just didn't work out. I'll start with mine, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, it's low hanging fruit, but if you look at the way that if you took the Denver Broncos and played them against the Kansas City Chiefs for 17 weeks, which is what a season is. Mm-hmm. 17 full weeks. You realize the Denver Broncos would be 1-17 right now in their last 17 games against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
The one that disappointed me was Patrick Mahomes.
No, he doesn't get a pass for. He doesn't get a pass for being sick.
No passes.
Hey,
no passes.
I'm glad
you're on the field. You're on the field.
I'm glad you said that too, because it seems like they bring that up. It doesn't seem like this. This is the facts. They bring it up before the game, kind of getting ready to start the storyline. Mm-hmm. Had he won that game, had the Chiefs won that game, then it's all flu game. But they lose the game and nothing's said about it.
Correct. So there is no passes. I don't care how much. I don't really care how much money you make. If you're going to play on the field and let's go. I'm tired of the Michael Jordan comparisons of the flu games. Look, 2 weeks ago when Bijan Robinson was sick, he didn't play. And everybody was up in arms because he didn't play.
Just one carry?
Yeah, and that was in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness, man. You guys got a who let you down of last week? No, not off the top of your head. All right, what was your play of the week then, Gator J? What was someone that you were like, all right, this isn't really who I would start, but I'm going to go this direction, and it ended up paying off for you?
Well, I think if we look at how we drafted to start the year, we thought this player was going to be somebody that was going to be something, and then there was kind of a mangled mess in the running back room in Detroit. And now all of a sudden Monty was the guy. Well, now Monty's out, Gibbs was out, and then we thought, okay, well maybe Reynolds is going to be something, but then maybe Gibbs is actually going to be something. Gibbs stepping into the role that we thought he was going to step into, 26 carries, 150-plus yards, a touchdown, and then turns around in the receiving games and gets 5 of 5. Jahmyr Gibbs stepping up with nobody else in that backfield on Monday Night Football. That's a dude.
Yeah, that is a dude, man. If you're a Lions fan, you got to love seeing that right now. And then when David Montgomery does get back, even last night, Craig Reynolds, it was down the stretch. The defense was kind of out of it, but, he was adding some nice 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10-yard carries. And so you're talking about a duo like that of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, man. The Lions got something brewing over there. And I remember saying, people are going to really start rooting for Kirk Cousins this year after the quarterback documentary. Well, now for 3 years, people have been rooting for Dan Campbell, and it's now all coming to fruition. This is a great story.
Yes, it truly is. I think the worst play of that game was when it was 4th down at the 8-yard line. For whatever reason, they decided to keep the offense on the field and then take a penalty. For whatever reason, claiming, of course, the announcers claimed that they were giving the kicker room. Well, if that's the case, you don't need any offense on the field.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that point up because I'm sitting there watching that, and Big Cloud was standing beside me. He's like, maybe they're trying to draw them offside. I'm like, what? For what? Why would you try to draw them offside so you can get 3.5 yards? They're at the 8, so you're only going to get half the distance to the goal anyways. So maybe that'll enforce you to go for it, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that they're going to jump off sides on you anyways. And then to make matters worse, but here's the other thing, though. Here's the other thing. Maybe the kicker really did want those 5 yards because that was a 31-yard field goal, right? He made it. Later in the game, he had a 24-yard field goal, and he missed it. So maybe he did need those 3 yards.
Maybe Dan Campbell and the kicker had a discussion.
Yeah, but it was. I'm telling you,
I'm playing Scott Fishbowl this year. I need the extra 3 points.
Right. When I was watching that, I was incredulous as you. I'm like, what are y'all doing here? Come on, man! Let's play football. Let's move on. My favorite part of the game though was when Jahmyr Gibbs jumped up into the stands, and then it wasn't just that because I don't think I've ever seen him actually get into the stands like that. Normally with the Lambeau Leap, they're like kind of on the edge there. Gets into the stands, and Troy Aikman calls it the Lions Den Leap.
The Lions, okay, all right. Yeah. I like it. See, I had it on mute. I wasn't even trying to listen to the announcers. Sometimes it hurts my ears to listen to the announcers because it's like I can see it and I say it, and then it's like 5 minutes later they say the exact same thing, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. So you're listening. Where's the listening devices?
Yeah, right. I'm in that position with you a lot. If you had to put together, this is why I sent you these over, or sent you this over earlier, waiver wire team of the week. So if you had to put together a whole team from the waiver wire, and you can use your league or whatever it is, what would your waiver wire team of the week be?
All right, so I did it. I did it exactly how you said. Or how you sent it over. I took it like that. So thankfully I did this the right way. It would be Will Levis, number 1, coming in the quarterback position, 10% owned in sleeper leagues. I think he's right next to that, like maybe 11% owned in an ESPN. The next one would be Royce Freeman. 2 weeks ago, I talked about Royce Freeman on my waiver wire show. At that point, he was 20% owned. That week, he also was right there with Darnell Henderson as far as touches and yardage. This week, he got 3 less touches, but got like 7 extra yards and the touchdown this week. Royce Freeman would be my guy at 21% owned. Demario Douglas, 6% owned up there in New England. No idea what New England's doing, but deep waiver wire, Demario Douglas is going to be something. He's already shown that he can get in the end zone. This one here is probably maybe a little bit more obvious. He's 53% owned. But Brandon Cooks, why is he not like 70, 80% owned?
That's a good point.
The dude does nothing but catch balls and catch in the end zone. I understand CeeDee Lamb's on the other side of him, but CeeDee Lamb isn't that whole offense.
Right.
Brandon Cooks should be owned in 99% of leagues, if not, or 70% of leagues, if not 90% of the leagues.
So listeners out there,
for you,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say one more for you. This guy is more of maybe a touchdown-dependent guy when it comes to tight ends, but Donald Parham, he catches damn near everything that comes his way. He's 13 of 19 on the year, but he's got 4 touchdowns already. Insane number of touchdowns for a tight end out not named Travis Kelce.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so for those of you listening, like if your league is looking the same as what Gator J's is setting up to be, go grab some of these names, man. He's been on point throughout the year, and then you can also listen to him. He's a producer, Fantasy and Frames, does a lot of fantasy football stuff. Gator J, tell them where they can find you and when they can find you when you guys are doing your shows.
You can find me tonight. We got at 7:30 Eastern time on Fantasy and Frames. Myself and Zach Pawlowski will be doing the Waiver Wire show. Tomorrow night from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, we have 3 shows happening. We've got 4th and Frames, Dynasty 365, and then Shoot the Gap, which is our IDP show. And then, of course, Sunday morning, which is probably the most important show for everybody to get their start sit questions in. Oh, yeah, and don't let me forget, Thursday night, we do have the mailbag show, so all your questions are answered there as well. More importantly, hit us up on the YouTube. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe on Twitter as well, or X, or whatever the heck they want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it, man. And when you type X and it just takes you to twitter.com. I think when it first started, though, I would type in Twitter and it would take me to x.com. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. You guys are changing logos. I don't even know what I'm doing in my phone. I don't use the app a whole lot. I need to be using it a little bit more because basically the only thing that I do on Twitter is sports stuff. And the only thing that I don't want to say the only thing. I care a lot about sports, though. I'm not as much of a music buff and all that stuff, but I really do, obviously, doing this, get down with the old sports. Man, one
more thing, if I can add it in there. We're on Facebook as well. I know a lot of your viewers and listeners are on Facebook as well. We're on Facebook as well, and we do have the Twitter, the TikTok, and Instagram, and all that stuff as well. It's all at Fantasy and Frames.
Who won the trade deadline? By the way, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We are on the line with Gator J, producer for Fantasy and Frames. Who won the trade deadline today?
I don't even, honestly, I don't know that I can say that somebody won it because it was all defensive today.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really funny to me, or what was strange to me, was I know Washington's defense wasn't that great, but they traded 2 first-rounders today over the last, 5 years or so,
mm-hmm.
with Sweat and Chase Young. And, one went to San Francisco, and I believe the other went to the Bears.
Yeah.
Sweat did go to the Bears.
Yeah, Sweat went to the Bears for a 2nd-round pick, and Chase Young went to the 49ers for a 3rd-round pick.
Right. So I don't know if I could say there's a winner because it's defensive. I'd have to ask the Fantasy and Frames boss because he's the IDP guy. But I could tell you right now, Washington's the loser. They lost 2 of their big guys.
I agree. I'm with you there. But on the flip side of that, Chase Young hasn't been able to stay healthy for him. Montez Sweat is in a contract year, and I think they swindled the Bears by getting a 2nd-round pick out of them because
gosh darn, all they did is they went to Pittsburgh and said, how did you swindle the Bears?
Yeah.
And we're going to do the exact same thing.
It's a copycat league, Gator J. I'm glad that you brought that up, though, the IDP, because last night I was down by 10 points in my IDP league. First time I'm ever playing IDP, and it's been a lot of fun because this is a trade deadline that's been focused primarily on the defensive side of the ball. And when you do those IDP leagues, you start to learn about other players that you had no idea even existed just because we put so much focus on the offensive side of the ball. And then really for offensive linemen and for defensive players is really you got to have a big name to even be noticed. But Marcus Peters last night with that pick 6 sealed the win for me.
I got a quick question for you because I know you got to get off here shortly, but I got a quick question for you. Who are you surprised that did not get traded?
Devontae Adams.
Ooh, see, and I was thinking more Derrick Henry.
Oh, well, see, the only reason, all right, if they didn't come out Saturday or whatever day it was, I think it was Saturday, might have been early Sunday, where they said we're not trading Derrick Henry, which maybe I'm foolish for, listening to that or whatever, because 9 times out of 10, we're not trading someone means we've already got a trade in place and we're just waiting to announce it. But I really felt strongly that the Titans went to Derrick Henry and said, look, if we can get a great deal for you, we're going to accept it, and we'll try to make it with someone who's a contender. However, how often do contenders have great draft picks to give up? And so that's why I don't think that it worked out. And I think Derrick Henry is content with being, of course he wants to win, but I think that he's content with being in Tennessee just because of the past record that he's had. And now then after that win, I mean, they're still not out of it in the AFC South, but the Jaguars are looking really good. The reason why for Devontae Adams for me is, I mean, we all see his frustration, but the thing that it boils down to is he did not come to the Raiders to play for the Raiders. He came to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr. Then Derek Carr goes. Now he gets basically the broken Derek Carr, which neither one of them are really that far above the other. But Jimmy G gets hurt at a little bit higher of a clip than what Derek Carr does. And when Devontae Adams is wide open, the ball doesn't even he throws it out of bounds.
Yeah, it's so mind-boggling. I think he had, 7 or 8 targets last night, catches one ball. And
7 targets.
There was one that was just so overthrown that I think Devontae made it back to the sideline and slammed his helmet before the ball came down.
Yeah, it was that one. I think it was fourth down. I think it was 4th down where they were looking for him there on the sideline. You had Jacoby Myers on the bottom of the screen. You had Devontae Adams up there at the top, and he kind of hit that little shimmy shake up and go, and he's got his defender by 5 yards. It's like, dude, you just throw the ball up in the air, and he's walking into the end zone, and now you're down 5 points. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you're talking. Yeah, I know. I remember the play you're talking about. It was a quick slant and go.
Yeah.
And he put the defender in a blender.
Yeah, he did. Jacoby Myers did the same thing, too, because it was essentially like I think they sent 6, maybe even 7 there on the blitz there. But, Gator J, we are out of time. As always, really appreciate all of your thoughts, your conversations, and your points, man. You take care, and we'll try to talk with you this Friday, maybe Thursday. I've still got to find someone to host the show for me Thursday, so I'm working on that. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. That was Gator J. He's a producer for Fantasy and Frames. He's got great content. Just go type in Fantasy and Frames, and it'll take you to everywhere you need to go. Good old Google. We'll be right back here in just a few short moments with some breaking news talking about Bay County sports.
Take ESPN Northwest Florida with you everywhere you go.
Anytime, anyplace, anywhere.
The sports talk and live play-by-play doesn't have to end when you get out of the car. The ESPN Northwest Florida app streams your favorite sports talk hosts and the biggest games in ultra-high fidelity.
This is of utmost importance in travel.
Take the sports talk monster with you anywhere you go. Available for Android and iPhone.
Use it anywhere or any place.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, mostly clear skies and a low of 46 with a strong breeze coming out of the north around 20 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, sunshine and a temp near 52. In the afternoon and evening, a wind 15 to 20 miles per hour, sunny and a high around 59. For Thursday, sunshine and a high of 65. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
During uncertain times, gold and silver bullion have consistently maintained the financial stability we need. For over 50 years, Coin and Bullion Reserves has served Northwest Florida as your regional choice to protect your future with the peace of mind that hard assets such as gold and silver bullion provide. The fluctuations of the stock market and concern over inflation often lead investors towards safe haven assets like precious metals. If you're concerned about the future of the economy, Coin and Bullion Reserves is here to provide you with the security you need. Come and speak with one of our numismatists so we can help you protect your future.
It moves fast.
Let's go.
The High School Spotlight. Weekdays at 5:40.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Barbaritos. ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're back, man. Tyler's getting me fired up over here talking about, he's like, yeah, they're saying Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, bro.
Expected now. Not just he's expected to
Expected to come back, guys. Like, and I'm not I don't normally dive deep into the conspiracy theories, and I'm not someone who says, listen to me. But because, it's sports, man. We're 9 times out of 10, we're wrong. So talking about these things, you know what I mean? It's really just entertainment, or at least that's the way I view myself. Is I ain't Scott Van Pelt. I ain't the Swami. But yeah, so expected to play, and all it like for me, I continued to look for quarterbacks. I didn't do like deep searches or anything because in all reality, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But I was looking for quarterbacks who had hurt their Achilles so I could see, like, what are their mannerisms after. The worst thing in the world for Aaron Rodgers is that Kirk Cousins hurt his, it doesn't matter. But for me, anyways, when I'm looking and Kirk Cousins is over there on the sideline and he can't even put his right foot down on the ground. He's got to hold it up in the air. For me, I'm like, okay, let's just go back and look at the injury to Aaron Rodgers. Look at him standing up for 11 seconds. Look at him going down to the ground slowly. Look at both of his heels on the ground. Where's your Achilles? In the back of your foot. Well, not in the back of your foot, but up there on your ankle. So ain't no way you're going to tell me that you're going to put your heels on the ground and just rest there without you sitting there laying back and saying, you know what? I can't even do this. Kobe Bryant shooting free throws one-footed. I mean, this is, this is reality here. And I'm telling you, it's just because he is spiteful towards the Green Bay Packers.
Man, I love it, and I kind of I want to believe. I hope it's true, and if it does turn out being true, it'll be awesome because, like I said, you called that the first week it happened. I think
we're never going to know if it's true.
Well, yeah, you're probably right.
Unless the NFL investigates.
I will say though, if he comes back this year, I'm going to have my doubts. I mean, just because it is such an odd and rare thing for somebody to come back from an Achilles. It's just
Kirk Cousins could be the tell. This could be the worst thing to happen to Aaron Rodgers. So if he does have major issues and he can't come back as fast, this can definitely
if it takes Kirk Cousins twice as long as Aaron Rodgers, that alone is going to.
Here's the thing, though. We're never going to be able to get that, though, because Kirk Cousins, at this point, no opportunity. You see what I'm saying? We're so far deep into the season.
Himself because he can't.
Yeah. He's not coming back this year. Kirk Cousins is done for the season.
You can look at the rehab and see where he's at in like a few months.
But here's the difference. Here's the difference, though, Rick, is that we're in the season right now, right? By the time Kirk Cousins is healthy in rehab, we're not going to be in the season. So we're not going to know what his progress is like. And honestly, we're going to be more focused on March Madness and baseball, and you know what I'm saying? So maybe there could be progress reports and stuff like that, but it still won't be the same because we're not going to see Kirk Cousins in game action. We're not going to see Kirk Cousins really in practice action because it's going to be the off season there. So I do agree with you that like it is a tell, but the tell for me is I'm telling you to go watch these videos of these two dudes getting hurt and tell me the difference. Either Aaron Rodgers is like a Superman. He eats I don't know. I don't know what. Huh?
Ayahuasca.
Well, maybe the ayahuasca has really helped him as a healer. And he heals at a very rapid rate. Anyways, sorry to get off on that again. It was just Tyler Bishop. Like he brought that up in the break about now expected to play. So it's like, all right, well, I'm sorry. We're talking about it in the break. I'm leading with that then. This is your local high school sports spotlight brought to you by Barbaritos. Visit Barbaritos on 23rd Street. Tell them Aaron Rodgers sent you. Barbaritos, food, community, people. Got a few volleyball scores this evening, or no scores, but games going on. South Walton down there taking on Bishop Kenny. Bluntstown hosting Liberty County at 7 p.m. and Baker hosts Chipley also at 7 p.m. This past weekend, the annual Panama City Beach Cup returned to the Panhandle for the 19th year. They had over 500 athletes from 5 different states in that event. One of the local gyms competing was obviously our Edgewater Gymnastics Academy. The event was the first meet of the season for Edgewater, and the gym placed first in the Excel Gold group, where they scored 115.175. 5 athletes were named first place all-around champions. We are going to get over to Tyler Bishop's picks here in just a second. 2 more things I want to tell you guys about. Earlier in the show, Coach Olds texted me. He has now been named a guy who does it all. If you have any youngins and they play youth sports, I'm sure you know the name Coach or just Deshaun Olds, but Coach Olds, as we like to call him around here, he is going to be taking over the Rutherford's soccer team. I believe the boys soccer team. So congratulations to him. And if you have any athletes over there at Rutherford and they'd be interested in playing soccer, get them in there. Not because of, I don't know how good of a coach Coach Olds is when it comes to soccer. I can tell you how good of a human being he is. I can tell you some of the lessons that your kids are going to learn from being around Coach Olds. One of the greatest men that I've ever had the privilege to shake his hand, and what he does for this community as well is it's really unheard of. And we're talking, I mean, golly. God, what a story. We're going to have him back on for another interview here in the future just because Coach Olds is a great man. And then one more thing here from Jake McGowan. Now, he didn't text this to me or even really ask me to do this, and I don't know if he's raised his goal or not, but they're looking for $5,000, and this is what it is, all right? It's Operation Toy and Winter Clothing Drive. So him and Marcus Henderson, they hold a annual toy and coat drive. They've been doing this for 3 years now, and they've raised money from the community to help provide winter clothing and toys for children in lower income based schools and homes. And this year, they're not just doing one school. They're doing 2. They're going to be doing Patterson and Cedar Grove Elementary. And he's got a list of all these kids kids at the school and who's going to be going through the winter months without warm clothing, which is, coats, jackets, pants, etc. like that. And they've also started picking families within the schools that's going to go without Christmas gifts. So they're trying to raise $5,000. I believe they're a little under or maybe right at halfway there. So if you know Jake McGowan and you haven't donated yet, reach out to him. If you don't, just type in Jake McGowan on Facebook and he'll pop up and just message him. If not him, then you can reach out to Marcus Henderson, or you can go to GoFundMe.com. GoFundMe.com. Oh, never mind. I was going to try to tell you, but to type it after the backslash, that ain't going to work. But maybe just type in Operation Toy and Winter Clothing Drive into Facebook, and then that would come up. But like I said, you reach out to Jake McGowan or reach out to Marcus Henderson. Those two guys do a wonderful job with this. And look, being hot is one thing. You can take clothes off. Being cold is a totally different thing. And then also when it comes to the families who are going to be without on Christmas morning, in this world that we live in with Santa got me this, Santa got me, well, what did I do for Santa not to come to my house? Let's help out, guys. We're what? How many years removed now from Hurricane Michael? 2018, 5 years. We're 5 years removed from Hurricane Michael. There was a huge spike in our community and helping and loving and leaning on each other. Let's keep it going. The thing is I know that we can get jaded with how the world's going, how scary it is, how wacky it is, but you can also be the difference that you want to see. Don't complain about people not doing stuff if you ain't doing it too. So that's kind of another one of the rants here on this Tuesday afternoon, and it's only because I love you guys, man. And man, this is a great thing that Jake McGowan and Marcus Henderson are doing. So go look for them on Facebook. And it's, again, another huge shout out to Coach Olds for becoming the boys soccer coach over there at Rutherford. All right, we're going to get into Tyler's picks here. We're going to see if we can knock these out. Kansas State at Texas.
I want to go Kansas State, but I'm taking Texas at the house.
Texas A&M, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Missouri, Georgia.
Them dogs.
Duh. Oklahoma, number 10, Oklahoma at Oklahoma State.
Give me OK State at the house. I picked them preseason. I'm picking them now. Let's go with
I
it.
like that, man. Number 23, James Madison. I'm going up against Georgia State.
Going with JMU right now. They're ranked and playing well.
Let me circle that just so I can come back to this. Number 22, Kansas on the road taking on Iowa State.
This line seems fishy, so I'm going with Vegas.
Don't it, though? So let me put the line out. Number 22, Kansas on the road at Iowa State. Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite as of yesterday. That's extremely fishy.
So I'm trusting Vegas.
There you go. Number 5, Washington at number 24, USC.
The race to 60, but I'm going with Washington.
Tread carefully here. Number 13, LSU at number 8, Alabama.
I like Bama at the house. LSU's defense is a little suspect still.
You're welcome back next Tuesday. Number 16, Oregon State on the road taking on the Buffaloes of Colorado.
Give me the Beavers.
Number 20, UCLA taking on Arizona.
I like UCLA. I think Arizona's playing some really good ball, and at the house it could be tricky, but I'll roll with Chip Kelly.
To the NFL, all of these games will be right here on ESPN Northwest Florida, except for one, because the other game that we're going to be having at 3:25 is the Giants and the Raiders. I didn't really care to pick that game. And the Cowboys and Eagles, how are we going to lead that one off? I wish that we had that one on the air this week, but we don't. We're going to kick it off at 8 a.m. in the morning over there in Germany. Dolphins at the Chiefs.
I think the Chiefs bounce back. Patty Mahomes hopefully feels a little better and they play a little better.
Rams at the Packers.
I like the Rams. I think they bounce back in Lambeau and pull this one out.
All right, Cowboys at the Eagles.
Eagles at the house. It's hard to bet against them.
I feel like this should have been the Monday Night Football game. Like, I think that they can't flex until they get to week 5 or whatever. Cowboys-Eagles should have been a primetime game.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, Bills and Bengals is a good one, right? Sunday Night Football, it goes back to DeMar Hamlin last year. Yes, give me that on Sunday Night Football. But Chargers-Jets or Cowboys-Eagles?
Yeah, not even close.
The flex appeal is there, NFL. Come on, make it happen. Bills at the Bengals, Sunday Night Football.
The way the Bengals played last week, it's hard to bet against them at the house.
And then our final game, Monday Night Football, again, right here on ESPN Northwest Florida, the Chargers at the Jets.
I'm never picking with Zach Wilson, so I guess.
All right, we'll see how many punts will the Jets have this coming week. It's been an honor and a privilege for you guys to be hanging out with us in the doghouse today. Hope you've had a great afternoon. Be safe out there, trick or treat, and make sure you keep an eye on your children. I know that you will because you are a great parent. Coach James Hell's show is going to be live at 7 a.m. running until 9. The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley from 11 to 1. Then I'll be back here tomorrow at 4 with the Afternoon Underdogs. Y'all have a great afternoon. Paul Feinbaum is coming up next. Just remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
ESPN Northwest Florida is your touchdown headquarters for the Mosley Dolphins and the Auburn Tigers. Plus, premier college and NFL games.